Okay,
Okay, sir, you are ready to go.
good evening, everybody. Welcome to the North Santiam Sewer Authority Board, right? Shelley?
Yep, she got me fixed up. And the project update.
And the North Santiam Joint Sewer Project Update number 51. It's March 4th, 2021 at 6 p.m. and it's held by Zoom conference call due to COVID-19. Let's have a roll call. Ken Woodward.
Good evening. So Ken, you here?
Yes, here.
Mr. Kirsch is not
Yep,
here.
Joey.
Janet's gonna call the roll call. Just answer her when
Okay.
she runs your name.
That makes it easier.
So we have Ken, we have Jeff Huey, Shelley,
Here, present.
Jeff Smith.
Here.
Dale Weesey,
Here.
Joel Parks,
Here.
Janet Zienhall here. So we are missing Mr. Kirsch. I am not sure if he will join us in a little bit. So we are missing one.
And we have a couple of guests here by invitation. Peter Olson with Keller Associates. Keith, is it Bettel? Am I saying that right?
Bedell.
Bedell.
Bedell, okay, thank you. Keith Bedell with Oregon Association of Water Utilities, McCrae Carmichael with the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, and Gordon with FCS Group. They will be presenting together with, under the old business, point E discussion, engineering and design of the wastewater master plan.
Welcome, everybody. Oh, and John McCormick just showed up.
How's it going, everyone?
Good.
Thanks for joining us today.
Okay, do we have any declarations of conflict of interest? Don't hear of any. Is there any announcements?
I have that one announcement, just if you guys saw it, I know I saw Shelley had forwarded this around as well through Facebook. The card lock station in Idana is now open to be utilized for residents in the Detroit and Idana area. There is an agreement that you have to set up with, I believe it's the Nelson products, Nelson. And they'll either do a credit card application or a prepaid card application. You just have to contact the SIT team, which I believe Shelley had a great little thing from Marion County to show what you can do for that. So this was solving one problem that we knew that we had. I know Shelley had brought it up as a concern, early, or quite a while ago. And so finally we're able to get through the fire marshal. And the fire marshal's office made a recommendation to allow for people to use it to help. I'm gonna mute. Okay, there we go. I muted Jeff Smith and I muted, I'm gonna mute a few people just to see who's got their piano going here. Whoever it is, great job. So thank you, Shelley, for kicking that off and getting that moving forward too. Glad that we were able to do that because there was no gas from Mill City all the way to Sisters. And so that was a big nervousness for all of us up there. And the last thing we want is people that are coming back to Detroit and then the people that are residing in Idana to have to drive all the way to Mill City and then back just to get gas. You would have used up almost half of your tank just to do that. So I'm glad that that was able to be taken care of. So card lock, look for that around through Facebook. That's all I've got.
Okay. Any public comment or questions? We're going to limit it to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody? I see one person left the room. Didn't know if Mary Ann left the room. Any public comment? and/or questions? I guess not.
Mary Ann, we just asked if there was any public comment or anything like that. Is there anything that you needed to have questions answered or things that you wanted to say?
Just glad to join the team. Here to see how I can help.
Welcome
Great.
aboard.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see you again, Ken. You've encouraged me. Nice to see you too, John McCormick.
Let's see. Action, approval of meeting summary notes from February 4th.
Just want to verify everybody received those. Is that correct? Okay, great.
Yes.
Is there any questions or anything? Anybody have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 4th, 2021 meeting.
I'll second then.
Hey, Janet, Jeff Yohe just seconded.
Got it.
So-
I'm having problems with keeping my motion on and, or my mute on and off, so I apologize.
Motion was made by Joe Parks to accept the summary notes from February 4th, 2020, and Jeff Yohe seconded.
Roll call vote.
There we
Yes,
go.
Mr. Woodward,
Yay.
Miss Engel,
Yes.
Joel.
Yes.
Sorry, my fingers aren't working, so bear with me. Dale. Dale, are you still there?
He's having issues, I think.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
having issues with his audio.
Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith?
Yep.
Okay. Jeff Huey,
Aye.
Janet Zienhall, aye. Dale, can you hear me now?
Dale, if you can't hear her, if you can say something maybe in the chat, if you have access to that, that would be great. Oh, there he is.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Dale.
you.
And Mr. Kirsch is missing, so motion passes.
Kim Kirsch's absence. Okay.
Missing in action.
Yep. Treasurer financial report review and pay bills, if any. Joe.
So we don't have any bills. Our balance is still $786.95. And we still have a credit with Spear Hoyt for $2,348.50.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Joel, can I have that credit again, please? My mouse malfunctioned.
Yeah. With Spear Hoyt,
Yes, please.
$2,348.50.
Thank you.
Do we need to make a motion to approve, or
Nope, we don't have anything to approve, do we? Or just the report?
it's just the same as last?
So I'm going to ask Shelley, what do you think? Do
He's
we
not
need to-
asking us to make any decisions or to approve a budget. This is just showing us what he's already paid, so there's nothing that we need to do except
Great.
go, great. Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I was thinking.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, guess what? We're moving right along. Discussion, engineering, design, wastewater master plan update. All yours, Peter and McCray.
Right, sometimes it's hard to find that unmute button. All right, well, appreciate you having me here again. And I think the first item I wanted to chat real quickly about is,
Peter, can I ask you if you would be kind enough to introduce yourself? There are quite a few people on here that
oh,
haven't
certainly.
met you before, so if we could do that, that would be great.
Certainly. I'm Peter Olson. I'm the project manager with Keller Associates, the engineering firm hired to do the conduct the wastewater master plan process. And been involved with the feasibility study, and from that process and all the way through where we're at right now. So I would call myself a local enthusiast about the whole thing as well, but that's my point of view. So, and then I'll probably introduce real quickly, we'll have him in as part of the discussion today. Part of our team is Gordon Wilson with FCS Group. They're our financial consultants brought on to do the Mill City system valuation, as well as the business case scenario evaluation. And so we'll talk about that here in just a minute. In fact, that's probably the more important topic for me today to discuss, is for Gordon to maybe provide a little bit of education and preparation, as well as solicit a little bit of feedback and just sharing some of the assumptions that they're going to be working with as they perform or put together the business case scenario. First thing I wanted to talk about was just here, as it mentions in the agenda, is the public town hall review. Get feedback, thoughts. How did that go? And wanted to hear what you said, good, bad, and ugly. So.
Peter, I was on it. I thought it went really well for the participation we had. Very informative. I was cheering at some of the stuff you presented, but I was muted by Danielle, which was very smart, so you didn't get to hear that. I think it went rather well.
Excellent, thank you.
And McRae made a comment earlier today about one of our, a citizen there, and he's online, matter of fact, John McCormick, that made a comment about the Energy Trust. And we thank him for that, because we're going to talk about it next month. But it was a good meeting this morning.
And as a quick follow-up, I don't think it hurts to share. I mean, we did have a good chat and discussion with Oregon Energy Trust this morning. And we'll be setting up the master plan. The more intense work that they'd be doing would be in the facilities planning study process. But the master plan will make recommendations to involve them and make use of both their funds and services. So that's the teaser, Ken. I don't know if I took the wind out of the sail for next month, but
No. We're just getting set up, because Dale Weesey also sent us some information that he's doing some research on it also. So it'll be a good topic for next month.
And I'm going to read out what Dale just said. He thought the town hall went very good. They posted the replay link on Facebook as well as the replies, and that they wanted to see, and it says IGT. So maybe I'm not as cool as I should be, and I don't know what IGT is.
I got some, so I put it on 3 or 4 different social media sites, plus obviously our website. And I got some really nice responses. Then I got some really crazy ass ones out there. But we figured them out, and we communicated well to some people. And we have some people with the same last name, but not the same emails. And so it was a little confusing there for a day or two, but we've got everybody situated, and I think everybody is calmed down. There was a great deal of concern when their properties were mentioned, and nobody had told them that their properties were going to be mentioned. And I can see how that would be upsetting. So we were very clear to say, it was something we had just overview looked at, but we certainly didn't walk onto your property and do any drain holes or any testing like that. It was just, they were feasible sites once upon a time. Thank you for reaching out, but please be reassured that we are not considering your sites. because, well, I didn't say it, but you would actually know by now if we were. So, that was good in a way to have this conversation because people were actually paying attention and listening, and that has great value.
You certainly get their attention when you show their property being put on there.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. Nobody wanted to give them heartburn or angst about any of that. So I mean that wasn't the purpose. And I think we resolved that pretty quickly through a few emails. So hopefully that resolved it for them and they don't have any ill feelings towards the group. So.
And Peter, it was more than just, I just for your understanding, it was more than one. I think we handled
really?
3 different ones.
Yeah.
You only saw the one, and so I just wanted to make sure you knew.
Okay.
And they were asking specific engineering questions. We, did field other emails and phone calls.
Okay.
And we think that we've resolved their concerns for now, and just told them, please, stay informed. But we are going to be reaching out to anybody that we had we are seriously evaluating. We want to, I said, we really just did tabletop, and if it was the right size and potential location, we just kind of said, yeah, let's put it on the list to see. And then we want to work with whoever's amenable to, potentially work with the sewer authority to move those properties, because we'll need quite a few.
Yep.
So I just want to let you know.
I appreciate that. I wasn't aware of the other ones, so that's good to know. And yeah, I mean, those after subsequent to the master planning process, there's going to be negotiations and discussions and what that needs to be. So that, I always feel a little bad when, it's not our intent to cause, those issues, but, so. Yeah.
Well, I think it was actually, I think it was good for us. I certainly don't want to cause heartache to anybody, but I think it was actually good for us to say, okay, we need to communicate a little bit more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I put together that Facebook page, or excuse me, the YouTube page and channel specifically for the North Santiam Sewer Authority. And once I placed it up on that, and then Shelley and I believe Ken and a few other people forwarded that link around, we didn't have any more questions. So I didn't get a single one after it was posted. And I went onto the YouTube channel just before this, just to see what the analytics were. There's already been 70 views.
Wow.
And on the YouTube channel for that. Now, they didn't stay on for an hour and a half, but I was surprised at actually how many views it's gotten since Tuesday? I mean, it was up 2 days ago. So we had about 45 people in attendance to the meeting, and I believe another 14 to 16 on Facebook Live with the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, and then 70 YouTube videos. I consider that very successful. And I think that we should now really consider, putting a lot of our different meetings and stuff on YouTube, so it's easily accessible to people. So thank you. I think it went really well.
So you're going to do that? You're going to set it up on YouTube or?
So it's already up on YouTube as of Tuesday. And I believe
for moving forward with.
I think this is a discussion that, this group has to have, but I think with the analytics, it was a really good thing for us to have. Even if we did, it may be suggestion we do an update every couple of weeks, since things are moving really fast right now. Doing it just a quick 5-minute update of what's going on in the sewer project every couple of weeks, that might be something we look at.
And something that the communities need.
Yeah.
Okay, you can go on, Peter. We'll let you do your thing.
No, that's great. And this is all part of it. So really, I kind of wanted to turn the time over now to Gordon, and we'll have a discussion about some of the financial aspects and what they're doing and some questions that he had. Gordon and I have been having a number of discussions so Gordon, I'm going to let you maybe introduce yourself a little more if you'd like, and then I'll let you.
Sure. I'm happy to.
especially now that the piano is not going. That was my grandson practicing his piano. So I confess that I was the source of that sound. I'm a senior program manager with FCS Group, and we're a consulting firm that does a lot of financial analysis, especially in the Northwest. We have offices in the Portland area and in the Seattle area, and I in particular spend a lot of time working on what I call strategic choices for utilities, decisions that don't have to be made very often, but that make a big difference to your future. And that includes appraisals and divestitures and acquisitions and things like that. It also includes intergovernmental partnerships, and it includes new sewer systems or septic conversion programs within existing sewer utilities. New sewer systems are tough, and that's, the financial side of it is always a challenge. So that's one of the things I've spent a lot of the last dozen years or so working on. My part of this particular project will be to give you some advice on a couple of areas. One is how to integrate the Mill City system into a larger regional system. And it's that, we've been referring to that as the valuation, but really the valuation of the assets is only part of it. The real question is, what do you do with that valuation? How do you blend an existing system with a new system? I'll be addressing that. And also I'm responsible for providing a business case analysis for the whole project. And that's kind of a very beginning level kind of financial feasibility. It won't be a detailed year by year kind of a connection by connection type of forecast, but it will be something that gives you a chance to make decisions at this stage with some financial knowledge in mind. I'm going to give you a little bit of just background, maybe 5 minutes or less, I promise, a background into the financial side of a project like this. And then I'm going to describe some questions that I am assuming I'll need to either address or get your feedback on, because some of them are policy choices that you would need to make. First, the background. With a project like this, there are 4 types of costs that have to be addressed somehow. 3 are capital costs and 1 is an operating cost. The operating cost is what you're going through right now, the planning, the organizing. Somebody's got to spend money just to be getting people together and trying to figure out how to move forward. The capital costs for a big new sewer system kind of project comes in 3 parts. One is the treatment and transmission costs. Those are the broadest in their applicability. Everybody is going to need it. The second type is I'm going to call it the local sewer lines. It's that pipe in the street in front of your house. And then the third part is the third type of capital cost is the what I'll call private plumbing costs. It's the lateral from the pipe in front of your house into your property, the physical connection, and the decommissioning of the septic system. Those private plumbing costs can be expensive. I don't know, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, depending on how deep your lot is and how long the lateral has to be. But they're really noticeable by themselves. And those are typically covered by the property owner. The cost of the sewage treatment plant, you've got an estimate from Peter's study a couple of years ago, and I kind of made some assumptions and guessed about 60 million for that, plus the extension of the sewers themselves, the whole thing. But treatment plants are expensive and transmission lines are also expensive. The pipe in front of your house, the local infrastructure, is something that in many communities is expected to be paid for by the property owner up front through either a local improvement district, or sometimes a developer will just install that infrastructure and then donate it to the local sewer utility. In this part of the country, that's been the typical practice. In the eastern US, it's different. The sewer utility will pay for the pipe in front of your house. But in the West, it's been traditional to expect developers to pay it, or property owners. But those are your three basic types. And I've already alluded to another little bit of background, which is when there's a project like this, there are three possible sources of funding, three logical sources of funding. One is the property owner who is connecting, paying some kind of an upfront cost. Another is the sewer utility, which turns around after, if the sewer utility borrows to pay the capital cost, then it turns around and pays rates, charges rates on an ongoing basis. And then the third is grants, outside funders. So it's either the system or the property owners or the outside parties. We all want to maximize grants, of course. I mean, that part is easy. There's no policy decision to make there. You go after everything you can get and you make the best case. And I think you guys have got a pretty good case to make. But even then, there will probably be some kind of local match or some kind of residual part that is not covered by grants, that is covered by loans, has to be paid back. And if it has to be paid back, then it comes into the territory of the other two funding parties, either the property owner or the sewer utility itself. So that's a little bit of background, types of costs, potential funders, and that leads to some of the choices that different systems need to make. Now, one choice, and this is the one that I already alluded to, and that is when you have an existing system and a new system, you've got to figure out how to integrate one into the other financially. So Mill City already has a system, and so there needs to be some acknowledgement in the rate structure or in the expectation of upfront charges. However it's done, there needs to be acknowledgement that there's a difference for the Mill City ratepayers than for everyone else for whom it's a brand new system. There's also another policy choice. There's a boundary line between the property owner and the system. For example, are the step systems the responsibility of the property owner or the system? Who pays the power costs? Who pays for the initial capital? Is it you as an authority, or is it the individual property owner? And that always has implications for how you actually run the business once you're up and running. And it has implications for rates, the eventual rates also. Of course, the more you rely on the system to pay things, the higher the rates have to be. Here's another type of question that it's a policy choice that you get to make, and that is area-specific rates. Should Gates and Mill City pay one rate, and Detroit and Idana pay another rate? That's a choice that you get to make. I have some opinions about that, and I'll be sharing that as we go along, as well as reasons for those opinions. But in general, it is a choice. I've seen different utilities do it different ways for some reasons. So that's another area. It's a financial decision, a decision with financial impacts that you will need to make. Here's another big one. New connections. Voluntary, mandatory, voluntary with incentives. If one of your incentives is to allow people to say, no, I don't want to connect yet. I want to get the value of my existing septic system. is there a time limit to that? Do you say, okay, that's fine, but you can amortize your septic system over 15 years, and after that, you do have to connect? That's another set of questions with how you structure the actual process of getting people online, and those are the ones who are paying the bills through their monthly sewer rates, only the people who actually connect. So any given property owner is going to be doing a little math in their head. They're going to be saying, okay, I pay X, I can pay this amount of money per month, and that's guaranteed if I join the system, or I can keep using my septic system. And their decision might depend on how old their septic system is, whether it was torched last year, whether it was still functioning or about to fail, and who knows whether it's about to fail. That conversion from septics to public sewer is a tricky one, because septics tend to fail one by one, and yet sewer systems have to be built collectively. And so the question of how do you give people enough choice that they can buy in and yet still have it be financially viable for the overall system, for the authority, that's you, for the utility. And that's going to be another one of those tough things that you'll have to think about and make some decisions about. Now, let me give you a few rough numbers. And let me just emphasize, I did not put these in writing, so I can preserve deniability here. They are so rough, don't even share them with your cat. But I want to give you an order of magnitude, and I'll tell you how I got to the numbers. Let's assume I was flipping through the 2017 Keller report, came up with a number about 60 million for the entire system. That is of the 4 communities that are now included. Let's assume that that's your cost, upfront capital cost, not including, I'm going to assume that it does not include the private plumbing costs, that will be on the property owners regardless. But I'm assuming that it will include the pipe in the street in front of people's houses, as well as the transmission lines, as well as the treatment plants. So let's just make that guess. Let's assume you get grants for 80% of it. 80% is a lot. I'm being optimistic here. I've worked with one client that succeeded in getting about that amount. That's the highest percentage I've ever seen since the glory days of the 1970s and the EPA grants. But let's assume that you can pull that off, and your local share is 20%. Well, 20% of 60 million is 12 million. Now, how much would you borrow? Let's assume you borrow all of that, because you don't have any money accumulated yet. I tested out different loan terms, and I ended up assuming a 20-year state loan with 1.5% interest. I don't really know the state loan programs in Oregon. I don't know if that's realistic, but let's assume that it's some kind of low-cost, favorable terms state loan. You got somebody in Salem who is, who wants to help you. And so you're getting a good deal on the financing. So your funding package is 80% grant that you don't have to pay back, and then 20% subsidized loan. Well, what would be the interest on that? And the answer is to be about $700,000 a year. Well, $700,000 a year, how many people do you have spread that over? Well, I looked at some data that Peter gave me a few weeks ago, and made some guesses about how many equivalent residential units or equivalent dwelling units. That's my EDU. That's my basic unit here. And making some assumptions about how an average of 3 EDUs per non-residential. And of course, the single family residential is 1 EDU per connection. I came up with roughly 785 EDUs in all 4 communities. I could be wrong.
Sorry, what was that number that you had, Gordon, for the EDUs?
1785. And once again, I could be wrong. I could be wrong on all of this. All these numbers are just a starting point. They're all going to be shifting around. But if you take 700,000 a year and divide it by 1,785 EDUs, that results in $392 per year.
Help me
Divide that-
understand, if you could help me understand the $12 million and the 1.5% interest rate, that seems
Yes.
to me that a 700,000 a year would be really high. It would seem
Well,
to be,
maybe I'm wrong. Let me run it through again on my calculator, okay? 700,000
you're
is
talking
the-
12 million every year,
is the
or 12
present
million.
value. Oh yeah, 12, thank you, 12 million is the present value. And I'm assuming 20 years is the term, and 1.5 is the interest, and payment is $698,900. So round
That's that you're saying that's the interest payment?
interest and principal.
Well, it was you said 20 years, right? Is that what I heard?
Oh, yes, interest and
Yeah,
principal
that's-
over
That's the
over a
difference.
over a 20-year schedule.
Right.
That's the last piece that, I think is important there. Yeah, Danielle. So.
Yep, that's right. And I'm giving you all these numbers so you can play with them.
Yeah.
And also to help you get an idea for what the key variables are. So anyway, I divided that by 1785. That's $392 per year divided by 12 months. That's $33 a month. Just for principal and interest, just for the debt service for the overall system. Now, Mill City is paying what, 40 something dollars per month right now for the total utility bill. So if it's $33 just for the debt service component of the utility rate, then the total, when you add in the O&M and administrative costs and things like that, will probably be higher, but we don't know how much. I didn't run any rough numbers about that. But what I've done here is to try to give you a starting point. It'll go up and down, probably up, but it's a starting point. And I wanted to also show you what the key variables are. Your total cost, the percentage that you have to pay for locally, the financing terms, including the length of the borrowing. If you get a 30-year loan instead of a 20-year loan, the price goes down per month, per year. And it's 30-year at 3% is closer to 600,000 a year instead of 700,000. Now, just like with the home mortgage, it's the length of the term makes a difference. And another key variable is how many EDUs there really are. I made guesses. And how many people choose to connect. I assumed 100% connection from all the people who are now on the water system. If only 50% of them connect, then that $33 a month is looking more like $66 a month for the early in people. Again, boy, these are some of the trade-offs, but I'm trying to give you an idea for those key variables, and I'll be working on those over the next couple months. My expectation is that I'll come back to you, or be ready to come back to you, or the TRC or somebody at the end of March or early April, to talk about the integration of the Mill City system, how that can be done. But this bigger business case analysis would be about the end of April or early May. I think you have a meeting on May 6th, something like that. That's when I'd be back to give you advice. In the meantime, I might be calling some of you. I'm glad to see how I'm calling you to get your take on some of these choices. Peter told me a little while ago that his assumption is that you want to minimize the upfront property charge, which is fine. That's one way to do it, because that increases the odds that people sign up voluntarily. And that means the ratepayers would take that whole $33 a month, and you wouldn't offset it by having an upfront connection charge. But that's a choice, and so I'll be coming back to you explaining what some of those consequences of those choices are, and trying to help you make decisions, or at least understand the lay of the land. Any questions? Now I'm interested in your questions. Or
Ken,
you're all
you're on.
stunned.
said 20 years. I think we were thinking 25, or I know USDA wants 40, but
That's great.
um,
And
Wow,
that brings
yeah.
the cost down.
said something about 40. Not that
Yep.
they want, they just said something about 40. I'll put it-
That's great. You'll need some good news.
Well,
40 years makes me really nervous.
No, but no, that's
That's
why
true.
when
Yeah.
she made the comment 40, I just went Mill City.
yeah,
Yeah,
no.
No.
exactly.
I think it's 25 is what, or 25 or 30, yeah.
25 to 30 is what you see as far as like a lifetime of some of the, a treatment plan. You're really looking at a major upgrade, hint at, at that time frame, for the lifespan of a treatment. Now, the collection system is different, right? I mean, that's it. They all have different lifespans. And so
Right.
they all factor into the decision on how long, to make that loan. The more important thing is to factor in the lifespan of what you're taking the loan for, right? If you buy a car, they're not going to give you a loan for 15 years on a car. It just doesn't make sense. So
Yeah, it shouldn't exceed the expected life of the asset, in which case you might have, in fact, you'll probably have more than one loan package. And if part of it is for 40 years, you can say, okay, that part is for the pipe, because pipe lasts a long time. And then there's another part we're going to take over 20 years. The whole thing is going to be more complicated than I've laid it out, but it's going to have these same variables.
So any idea on operating costs? Any ballparks on that?
I didn't even think about that, or kind of, I'd have to try to come up with a per EDU operating cost. I haven't, so my answer is no, I don't have any idea right now.
I think that we can't really know what that's going to be until we know what kind of system we're going to have, right, Peter?
Mhm.
it's all part of it. Correct.
Right.
Yeah, if you have pumping, for instance, if you have step systems and a lot of pressure mains, pressure lines, then that increases your electricity cost. So it'll be
Yeah.
variable.
Yeah, you're right, Ken. I mean, it's all part of that.
So Gordon,
But I could look at the Mill City budget and say, okay, how much, or some other utility budget and say, okay, how much of this total cost is O&M versus debt service, and come up with a guess. By the time I come back to you, I'll be looking at that type of question.
It would just be nice to see what's going to potentially be added to that $33 a month.
I will guarantee you it won't be $33 a month. So
Yeah.
I'm throwing that out there, knowing all of the parameters, knowing kind of where we are. Gordon, I'm going to offer, so I did some preliminary numbers back in 2017, 16 and 17, based on the Keller report as well. And so I would really like to make sure that we're thinking similarly or close enough. I do think, though, there were some bumpers that this group has requested in the past. John McCormick, former mayor of Gates, he was looking at the connection rate. Mill City had a very high connection rate, even when people went through and said they weren't going to do it, they weren't going to do it. They ended up having, my understanding, according to the mayor, is that they had just ended up like a handful, maybe like 10 to 12 residents that didn't join. And of course, then there was some cost associated with the ones that wanted to join at a later date, and they had now connection fees that they didn't have before. I'm not speaking for the board, but so stop me but this is the conversation that's happened around this table, is that, of course, they want to reduce the barrier for people to become, a customer of the sewer authority. And if that requires us to go out and get specialty funding specifically for the homeowners to help hook up to the system, that is something that also has been favored in this group to do the hard work and ask for additional funds there. So we're making the assumption that the connection rate will actually be higher than 90%. And because this is not like this is a city, a regional approach. And I think this is probably our best bet to get money in the future. I don't think the money's going to come as easily down the road. It has changed quite a bit since, the 70s and 80s, right? But we have, what would be helpful, at least to me, because I'm taking these back to the legislature, I'm taking these rough numbers and shopping them around. The numbers are being shopped around, and I'm not gonna lie, they're actually telling everybody it's gonna be 97 million and that they should find a way to make it happen at the state level. And nobody is dying in their chairs yet. So I think we have some more opportunities to ask for what we need, and that may be shifting some of that responsibility from traditionally in the West, the homeowner, to going more of the eastern side of the country and making that part of the authority at potentially a little bit of a higher rate.
Yes, and
I agree with that. I think it's pretty much imperative that we keep the hookup costs low in order to maximize the people who do hook up.
okay, good. I agree with that. And when, for instance, Indianapolis had this big sewer extension program, they just flat out required connection within 1 year because the utility was building the pipe. They said, we built it. All you got to do is connect. And so they didn't have to mess around with incentives. Say, oh, if you connect in the short term, then you'll get this discount rate. And if you wait, you'll have to pay a much higher rate. If you can get grants to cover that, the actual pipe, and to make it accessible to people, that really gives you a lot of leverage in getting a high participation rate. That's huge.
I do think what would be helpful when you're doing those financial projections, that we put that as an itemized line item. Because the funding packages that we're going to have to be looking at are going to be Frankenstein stitched together. So we're hoping that, some will cover this piece, others will cover this piece. And so we're already starting that process. But an itemization of what that costs for all of these add-ons would be helpful, so we can help draft the story that needs to go along with how it's going to be funded.
Are you talking about the connection from the existing house to the pipe in the street, funding that portion so the homeowner doesn't have that cost?
Sorry, Marianne, say that one more time.
Are you talking about funding the homeowner, the property owner side of the sewer line to connect it to the side, to the pipe in the street?
Yeah, potentially.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, potentially, yes. Sometimes they fall under SDC fees, right? And that is a connection later down the road. But I think that's the conversation that has happened, and I'm not seeing anybody yelling at me, speaking for you guys, for the board.
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And
I've seen an instance where grant funding has been available for the private plumbing costs.
No.
Not common, but it's not unprecedented either.
I think this is such a non-traditional approach,
right?
That we anticipate moving this forward in a way that is available for a case study in the future. And so that
I also think that we should, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Joe.
I think we should consider the possibility of private donations too, whether it be from communities in the area that will benefit as well from this system in the water quality downstream issue. So if we could, there's a possibility of private donors, whether it be businesses or individuals.
Thank you,
if we
Jeff.
could find a way to pursue that, yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, that there have been philanthropic organizations that have also shown some interest in that. And then I would just throw out one more piece, if I can remember. I started talking and I forgot already. But one of the things that we did discuss around this table too is that we wanted rates to be consistent and please, anybody stop and speak up. Rates consistent amongst the entire area. The reason that this group formed as an ORS 190 organization versus a service district or a sewer authority is because they wanted to have equal participation as well as equal leadership potential. So they each have 2 members on this board. And it was because they wanted to make it better for all of the communities, not just the ones that had some additional political power. So that has been a conversation about keeping those rates at an equitable, flat amount through the entire area. And so it's a shared cost. So we're not pitting one community against the other.
Okay. I'm happy to make that assumption partly because I agree. Whenever I advise utilities, I understand the political impulse that makes people want to go for area-specific rates, but uniform rates, area-specific rates make it harder to solve problems in the future. Because you don't know which section of your system is going to break. You're going to have to make a capital improvement over here, and then over there, and then over there. The bigger your customer base, the better you can solve future problems that you don't know about right now. So with the exception of the Mill City situation, and I envision that in my head as a set situation where the big new system is buying the residual value of the Mill City system. It's and so, but instead of buying it for cash, they're buying it through some kind of rate differential or differential in upfront costs. So that can be accommodated and still preserve the idea of uniform rates. I'm a big supporter of uniform rates.
Kelly,
So
you had something?
if you've already had that conversation, that's great.
I do, and I have, everything changed on Labor Day. I'm looking at this chart that John McCormick is putting out, and it's just making me, I don't know whether to laugh or cry about it. When he says that you're going to have 368 homes in Detroit or at 75%, 276, that's how many we lost. We don't have 276 homes. We have 20. So, I mean, yeah. And I don't know if Gates has 125 houses either. So it's just something to really factor in that everything changed after Labor Day. I hear from my people, from my constituents, that they really, really want to rebuild. However, it's the concern of how long is this going to take. And so, I mean, I've been speaking to senators and congressmen and the directors of FEMA for weeks now about this very topic, that the concern is, if we don't get the money soon, these houses are going to be gone. These households, these homes, these people are going to move away. And are they going to be rebuilt until there's a sewer? And then you have towns like Gates and Detroit basically imploding on themselves because there's no tax basis, no tax structure, because nobody is living there. So I mean, this is a great conversation and I'm fascinated and I'm loving hearing it. But again, this is a pie in the sky concept right now after the fires, with the houses gone and the homes gone. And then and this, of course, this isn't your problem, and this is a great conversation, but it is a factor that has to really, really be talked about. And God dang it, those stupid fires.
Yeah. Can I add to that? I appreciate that comment very much. And one of the things that it means is that the timing matters a lot.
Yeah.
Because once somebody plunks down $15,000 to buy a new septic system, they don't want to do it twice. If you can get a public sewer, at least the backbone, built before people need to reinvest in a septic system that got destroyed, that's the time. So the fires gave us a hard deadline, I think.
They did, and people making that decision on rebuilding and waiting for the sewer system. It's a big decision to make.
So Gordon, just so you're aware, and Shelley as well, this is part of the reason why we added into our plan, the income and population survey and population estimates. We're really going to have to work closely with Portland State University and figure out what type of growth rate projection they're going to help us see. So this is something that we have to work through, because the numbers that Gordon and Peter are putting together, they're absolutely imperative based on the number of people that return, right? And just from a economic development perspective, I think Detroit's going to grow back. I think Detroit is going to grow back because when it's a resort community, it's well placed in the mountains. Whether though that's 5 years from now or 10 is the concern. I think that's really what I'm trying. I see this in you, Shelley, right? Gates is a different situation. Gates has a lot more land to actually use, but I don't think it's going to densify nearly as much as I think Detroit's going to densify, right? So yes, all of these questions really have to kind of come into play. This is where, your knowledge in the local community and what's going on with the community planning or your planning commissions and all of that kind of stuff is going to be hugely important to bring back to this group to help us understand what numbers we need to put on paper to go through the financial modeling.
And this is going to be the,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
this is going to be the growth incentive for those communities to bring in a new Detroit and Gates to have a, highway business core. This is going to make it to where those councils can start visioning what they want the future of their community to look like when a sewer is offering them some of that economic development and that growth potential.
Yes.
I could maybe steer the conversation in one direction, or just some questions. And I don't know if this group knows or does not know. I know Tim's not in the discussion here, but the existing, and this is a question, Gordon, that you had about existing the existing step or septic tanks in Mill City. Are they privately owned or are they owned by the city?
I can answer that one for you.
All right.
They are owned by the city. Part of our rates go for the the tanks being pumped out every 5 to 7 years, or as needed if there's a problem. So they're the city's responsibility.
Who pays the electrical? Is that, I assume that's on each homeowner it connects to their service connection. Is that correct? Or is there a separate connection or separate electrical service that is paid for by the city?
Between the house and the tank in our yard?
Yeah, I should ask, does everyone have pumps that pump out, or does it drain into the gravity? There's a gravity collection system for Mill City.
Okay, I'm going to assume it's a drain and there's not a pump. Not that I've noticed in the new house we're in. I'm going to ask now, but I don't believe there's a pump. I think it drains straight out of the house into the tank, and then the solids stay in the tank, and then the water goes out from there.
That's something Danielle and McGrath, I might follow up with Russ about that question. He's the one that's going to know intimately all those details. So.
Oh yeah. I'm just learning all this stuff, so sorry.
Yeah, sometimes, and don't feel bad. It's out of sight, out of mind. It's something that nobody probably thinks about. So the other one. I think I'll leave the other one. I can coordinate some items with Danielle McRae, tomorrow in our discussion. Some questions that Gordon may have had. It's been a good discussion. I like that the board is hearing what Gordon has to say. It's very much, Danielle, you've been thinking about these things for years, and working on them and everything. And so this is I think it's been a good discussion, but is there any other, other questions before we kind of step away from that topic, I guess?
I definitely would like to hear more from Gordon more often. And I'm being serious. I think we have a lot of work to do, and we're only as good as what we can put on paper. And I think that, Gordon, I think your work is going to be extraordinarily important to how we do this approach, from a political standpoint, from a funding standpoint, but also from the community standpoint. And the people that you have around on this table are your brain trust, right? To really truly understand these communities and what is going to fly and what is not going to fly. So if we need to even set up additional meetings of small groups or something, we're happy to accommodate that.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree completely. Those are the sorts of questions I get asked all the time. Besides, when is it going to happen? Which, everything is different after Labor Day. But the biggest question I have is the cost, and then not so much the cost to the household, but yes, that's one. But the secondary cost of what is it going to cost to run the system? Because we know that if there's a cost to run the system, it has to come down to the household as well. So these numbers are really helpful and makes me look more informed.
And Gordon, I did have a conversation with USDA just Wednesday, and they sat down with me and they were actually surprised that the numbers, they could actually work out. Like they were like, I think this is actually doable. Like they were, I think, surprised themselves, because the last time I sat down and had a real conversation with them on the financing was in 2018, and they really didn't think it would happen. So we've made a lot of progress with them as well. So.
And I think we were talking about 2,400 EDUs, not 17. Not
I think
1,700.
that was the previous, and some of those may be other properties that wouldn't necessarily need sewer. So I think we just have to make sure that those numbers are right.
Right.
I guess I want to answer maybe a question or two, or just a comment real quick. And Dale and John, I enjoyed the discussion going on in the comments in the chat there. One thing I just wanted to clarify with Dale, and that's if the name's correct on there, because I know it happened to you, John, in the in the town hall. But whoever's it was.
It is correct. It is.
Okay, good. The Dale, you made a comment about it's also dependent on the type of system. The solid waste tanks will need to be removed and decommissioned. If it's a step system, the tanks will remain and connections will be less costly. That can be the case, but not necessarily. Feedback we're getting from, manufacturers and things like that is, by the time you spend the time to assess and evaluate individual tanks for whether they leak, whether they can be used, if they can transfer ownership, things like that, it could potentially be cheaper to just install a new step tank system. And so I'm not saying that's what it's going to be. I'm just saying that it could be either way. Just want to provide that information for you, Dale. So, and I think that was really the only one I was looking at. Like I said, I enjoyed the conversation there, and I'm not sure if there's any other specific questions. Danielle, McRae, if there's anything, or Ken, if you wanted me to cover anything specifically. I know I'm going to take second fiddle with all this financial stuff, and that's awesome. It's I know the engineering is going to, once we get to a certain point, the engineering is it. It is what it is, and then now it's like the rubber meets the road, and now how's it going to work, and the financials and everything, and everyone cares a lot more than that.
Yeah. How do we pay for it?
Yeah. So I've been expecting this and preparing myself emotionally, so to take second fiddle. So,
So
anyways.
Peter, can I ask, what about the technical advisory, the next technical advisory? When is that scheduled up? Do we have it scheduled up with Craig?
We do not have a hard date. That's part of what I wanted to kind of to chat with you guys tomorrow in our regular check-ins. But it's looking the end of March at the earliest for the next TAC. So that's I'm pushing the team on our side. There's a lot there's a lot we're working with and gathering information. One thing I was going to ask, and that reminds me, is I've tried to reach out to Chrissy Lucas, Danielle. I haven't had success getting back, and I don't know whether she's just on vacation or gone, or So I'm not saying she's ignoring me, because I got to give her the benefit of the doubt. But we're all busy too. So if you could, if you wouldn't mind pinging her, say, hey, get in touch with Peter. That she's a source of data and information that I want to make sure we're tapping into. So.
Got it. We'll be done.
Yep.
And so then we're going around telling everybody, because, of course, these are your messengers, Peter. We've been telling everybody that we will have a draft to look at in April. Are we
End of April, early May is what it's looking like now.
Okay. We're telling people April. So if we need to change it to early May, we need to kind of know that. So help us to manage expectations, because I need to. We're in the middle of the legislative season. And so they're asking left and right of, I need to know what your needs are for the next 3 years. I need to know what your expectations. So we're getting these pressure points, and I keep pushing them off to April. And I hope that we would have some strong, at least numbers that we can do. In the hope is in April, even if the document isn't physically completely.
Exactly. We'll have some draft numbers, but with the cost estimates, especially in the capital and things like that. Now, I know Gordon's, his information will not be finalized in April at that point, but that's we'll have the cost estimates. We'll be getting there. We'll have information that we can start, passing out.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody wants to know what kind of system you're going to come up with, so they know where to put the tank, and giving them kind of an incentive to move forward with the rebuilding.
Yep, and they want to try to do it during the building season.
Yeah, so they know they got to have a rough summer. They really do understand that. Just give them some. I know you will.
And Gordon, what we've said to Peter and anybody that's worked on it, we want to be completely transparent to people about what we know, what we don't know. We want to be very honest with them, even if it's painful. And so that is the policy. We're not going to go around beating around the bush. We're not going to be doing. Just give it to us straight. The communities can handle it. They know this is tough, and so just know that that's what we're going to be looking for. We don't need to coddle any of the people at this table.
Anybody who's been through a forest fire like you've been through, you don't need to be coddled. You can take hard news. I assume that, and I appreciate that's one of the reasons I felt comfortable sharing the big picture numbers that I did. And you can adjust. You can say, okay, if the total BDUs is higher, yay, that's good news. Oh, if the percentage connecting is lower, ooh, that's bad news. You can, the outcome will go up or down as the assumptions change.
Great, thank you.
And I want to thank Peter for this, which handed out. I don't know if everybody got one, but it's kind of a timeline, what he's done in January, what's coming up, and also the 60-day look ahead, and kind of what he's done with the money. Pretty good.
Keep doing that. It helps, again, managing expectations. I'll double check to make sure. Yeah, and I'll double check to make sure. I don't know if it was in the packet this time or not, or if I sent it separately. Okay, so Janet says she wasn't able to open that document. That's one of the documents that Peter, are not being able to open.
Oh.
You shared it as a smart sheet, Peter?
No, that was mine. That's mine. I'll fix it.
Okay,
Yeah, mine should have been the .pdf, but
I'm the one I'll send it out to you guys. This is my work plan.
okay, the doc PDF, all there was, what I received was just a front page that said Keller and Associates. It didn't have anything beyond that.
Oh, I feel, hey,
yeah,
Oh,
let me know.
hush, Ken.
I'm special.
Hush.
You
We'll
too.
get those resolved. We'll try to get those document pieces resolved for you guys.
It's very nice. Thank you, Peter.
No problem.
Thank you for all the hard work.
Well, is there anything you need us for? Or are we good to depart? I guess we'll let you have the more tough discussion. Good discussions. I guess not tough. So.
No, I think we covered everything down to the timeline. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. And I look forward to talking to you again next time.
Thank you.
And thank you, McRae, for sitting through this as well. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gordon.
Yep, bye.
Okay. Operational organizational budget and funding for
Fiscal
Wasn't
year
that assigned to
2021,
Tim
2022.
Kirsch to take care of?
Tim. You're here.
Oh yeah, he was
Sorry,
paying
everybody.
for this
I
whole
was at
thing.
Yeah.
an OSHA webinar on their new making the mandates permanent instead of temporary. So I was trying to provide some testimony there. Sorry, I'm late for this meeting. Maybe we could just go ahead and start over.
Yeah. Well, they were just talking about Mill City, and that's why I texted you. Are you going to be here? They're talking about you.
So the good thing is, Tim, is that we've recorded this and we are going to put it up on YouTube and make it nice and easy for people to access it. So you won't miss a thing.
Oh, very nice.
So we are on discussion point F on the agenda, just for your awareness.
Oh, good.
Organizational and operational budget for the fiscal year 21-22. One of the discussion pieces that we've had, maybe in this meeting, and then also certainly when I've had conversations individually with Ken and McRae, is that, some of the things that we need to do is, while we have this project, right, this project moving, we're also a government. We are a separate entity of the government. And we have to form all of our organizational structures to actually meet that requirement. And for that, I was able to get into the budget for this current year so that I can actually go. All I have to do is write the contract, get it approved through the commissioners, and then we can start moving on this for $150,000 for organizational development. So that's going to be, all these pieces that we have to take care of, compliance related, whether it be, building up our website presence, our software, our, getting our logo into a point where it's actually usable for multiple different sizes. So we have lots of pieces that we have to accomplish. And so I've put together a basic structure, and that's this smart sheet that you guys were not seeing. So I apologize for that. I will fix that and fix the way that is and send that out to you as quickly as I can. But in short, this money is, we have to be very specific when we're spending any of the county's money on this. This will be coming from the economic development lottery dollars. So it is not taxpayer dollars that are coming to the sewer authority for this. There is, I'm just going to be very honest, there is concern to give $150,000 to an entity that hasn't had experience. I have assured them that this organization is getting the maturity and the organizational experience that you guys need, so we can be ready for the larger scale infrastructure project in the future. So we've already done, I needed to draft the scope of work for potentially hiring some additional staff or help, grant compliance, that kind of stuff. We need to create some compliance schedules. We need to set up the budget system as a public entity. We need to develop our operating processes and procedures, develop the financial management processes and set up our own bank accounts and all of that kind of stuff. We need to obviously do the implementation of the website, email addresses, archives, records management, software type pieces, and then identify funding for the transitions, kind of like we were talked about just with Gordon. And then drafting the legal ordinances if there's any things that needed to be happening for a rebuilding, as well as identifying any additional funding to help maintain after that time period. So I'm in the middle. I say I'm in the middle. I've started that piece, but I need to draft up the scope of work to get it through as a contract with Marion County, which means that you don't necessarily just get all the money up front. So if somebody can help me think through, if this might be just a conversation, or bring you into a meeting with one of our staff members to think through what would be good areas to say, okay, I need $50,000 for this, and this is how long it'll take. So we can get the money in a timely fashion before we need it. So any questions, concerns, or tell me I'm wrong?
If I can interject momentarily, I apologize, but due to circumstances beyond my control, I'm going to have to leave the meeting early, and I will catch the rest of it on the YouTube.
Thank you, Jeff, very much for attending. We appreciate it.
Good night, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Good night.
You mentioned a key thing about we need a bank account, our own. We love you, Tim, but we need a bank account. We need a credit card.
Yeah.
And any suggestions on a bank? I myself have trying to get some information at a Oregon State Credit Union, which helps a lot of local communities. So I haven't heard from them, but somebody that takes care of local communities and, you know, and things like that.
So here's, and please, this is Tim and Janet, I'm kind of asking you guys for guidance on this. I don't want Mill City to be having to feel like they have to put money up front for anything that we're trying to do.
Mhm.
And so we're trying to work that out in a way that's sensible. But when we go after funds through USDA and all of that, a lot of those are reimbursement funds, and I don't want that to have to go through Mill City. I don't think you guys are going to be able to take on a giant loan. I don't think that's right. And so that's why I really we need to move it. And this was a great temporary move for us so we can get there.
I can just about guarantee we'd get a lot of pushback if we were to front money.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's kind of where we're at. So we're trying to mature and grow past you, Mill City. Thank you for your help in getting, you know, the finances worked out for us. So that's the next step, I think. So of course, choosing a bank and all that good stuff. Hopefully we have to get money first and then second hand.
Just as long as we consider convenience as far as, you know, one that's easy to work with, one that's easy to get to, things like that. Obviously, we all have our own banking institutions, and I bank with 2 or 3 different banks. So they all bank about the same to me.
They do. The one that I was checking with, they do have a branch in Salem. It's not in Mill City, but it's in Salem.
I think with a lot of banks now, they have such online. I can't even tell you the last time I went into a bank, but it may be different if you're a government. Maybe I don't know this, but I'm assuming you'll have to have some place to deposit cash at some point, and you want to think to that point
Right.
when we're doing that. So convenience, I think, is a great point to have.
How able, Tim, I'm going to ask you, how able is the bank in Mill City to manage funds like this?
Well, they're just a branch of one of the largest banks that there is. So
well, yeah,
US Bank, and obviously they're pretty competent. I have one of my accounts with them and have had one there for years, and great personal relationships with the folks there. If we have to do any, I would say, bigger banking needs, we end up at the main branch in Salem. But as far as, and that's the one thing, like Ken said, depositing cash, we don't want to have to send somebody to Salem or whatever with cash, for
True.
especially if it comes to a point where, people are making payments in cash, and there are a number of people that do, transporting it and things like that could put some people, make them uneasy, obviously.
Just, I don't know what it's worth, but I used to actually work at the Latin Bush, the US Bank in downtown Salem. And so, yeah, they would have no problem with this. And yeah, they're a great bank.
And yeah, I mean, yeah. So that just might be the obvious choice, is to go with US Bank, because most specifically because they have a branch in Mill City. And again, it is about traveling up and down the canyon. And if we are looking at our community as such, then it's kind of the outward boundary is Mill City. And I would welcome the opportunity to, use our local people, use our local bank, again, fostering that relationship within the North Santiam Canyon. As much as maybe a credit union would be a nice thing, first of all, they pay terrible interest, and US Bank might be able to pay better interest. Not that we are looking for interest making money, but if we do, that's great. But it's more that, as you said, Tim, that personal relationship and just the convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Well, great. We'll try to figure out what we need to do to make those things happen. When we'll have to figure that out. We're still learning, right? So Ken, I'm ready to move on. That's all I've got. Oh, sorry, one more thing. I did put in the request. I did put in the request for next fiscal year with the county. And I put in a request for $650,000 for the next stage of this project, of the sewer project in particular, not the organizational, that's in addition. So if we have to do some additional, we have to do the income survey, we have to potentially do some initial permitting, the cultural surveys, we have to do quite a few different things that we have to do. And so I calculated that out and put that in at a request for $650,000 for next year. We won't know until the commissioners officially agree. They've agreed and head nodded in our work session. But of course, that doesn't necessarily mean anything until it actually gets through the budget committee. So just want to let you guys know that request has been made.
150 for 2021 and 650 for 2022.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That'll put up, they'll be over $1 million they put into this. Review board rules and mission statement. Joel.
So I don't have anything new. I did send my first draft out to everyone. So if there's any changes or anything that anyone wants to make or be more specific or cut down on, I'm happy to make changes.
Is that on the board rules?
Yeah.
Okay, we can go.
And we have some time, I think, to get that, maybe in the next month or two.
I did send out the mission statement, though. Danielle helped me cut that down, so it's very concise now. So I like it. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Do you have it in front of you? Do you want to read it?
Yeah, sure. The fundamental goal of the NSSA is to serve our communities in the North Santiam Canyon by creating and maintaining a wastewater solution that is geologically suitable, environmentally sustainable, financially feasible, and politically viable.
Sounds good.
Here.
I like it.
All right.
The only thing I would change is I would say the mission of the NSSA.
Okay.
This is, yeah. That's the only change I would make. I love it.
Fundamental goal. Well, what does everybody think?
Oh, and Dale wrote protecting resources and habitats. I like that too.
Now we're starting to make it lengthy
Yeah,
again.
yeah, because you've got the environmentally sustainable on there, and that covers spotted owls and water and fish and everything else in that case.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be
Agreed.
hesitant to put the other pieces in there just because it has coded language in some of those conversations. And so keeping it as aligned as possible is definitely favorable.
So should read the mission of the NSSA is to serve our community.
Yep.
Everybody agree?
Sure.
Yes.
So do we guys do, this one is something that we would probably, if we're making those changes, somebody's gonna have to read it again. And we'll have to have a second and a first and a second, and then actually officially vote on it.
I make a motion that we accept the mission statement as modified, and I will read it. NSSA mission statement. The mission of the NSSA is to serve our communities in the North Santiam Canyon by creating and maintaining a wastewater solution that is geologically suitable, environmentally sustainable, financially feasible, and politically viable.
I second that motion only if it's like a verbal one, because you read that so well. I think
I
we should
used
have that recorded on the website instead of read.
my radio voice for you.
Shelley made the motion for modified, and Tim Kirsch made the second.
Do I
Janet?
need to do a roll call or can we just do a yay or nay?
Yay.
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 Okay, who's the nay?
There was no nay, there was just a bunch of yays.
I know, I was gonna get somebody if they spoke up. Motion passes.
That's good. We got that. And then you want us to, Joel, you want us to review the board rules and come back next meeting if anybody sees any changes that need to be made, right?
Or to speed along, if you have any suggestions, just email me. That way I can make all your changes before the next meeting.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Discussion, NSSA manager qualification and duties.
Mr. Chair, I am not ready to say anything more about this than we did last month.
Okay,
Best laid plans.
not a problem. Well, the new business, the population income survey, didn't we cover that just a little bit ago, a little bit?
Yeah, let me talk through it a little bit if that's okay.
Yes.
So obviously with the fires, it changed a lot of our calculations, right? It changes the amount of EDUs, it changes the population, it changes the potential flows. So for Peter to use for their estimates, state funds require that we use Portland State University's population estimates. We are concerned that those population estimates, so that means in our forecasting for the sewer flow, in the forecasting for the funding packages, all of those things, the income level, all of those things. So I'm hesitant and I'm concerned that those will be incongruent with what is happening on the ground right now. We had put it into our budget this last time, knowing it was going to be coming up. And so that is part of that 650,000 that we've requested this next coming year. The population survey will, whatever happens with that, whoever is selected, I did talk to USDA about it. They thought that they could actually get us some help and potentially for free to do that. And so we'll see what that looks like in a couple of weeks. The income survey is not specific to Portland State, but an income survey is going to be necessary for USDA's funding in the future. And the way they do theirs is it's the complicated one that you have to do for the CDBG grants, the community-based development grants that you have to do. And so it asks specifically what the median household income is for each community. And then that determines your rate at Business Oregon, at USDA, how much percentage of grant versus loan you get. So this is really imperative for us to get it right. So we will be starting this, I would say, probably by July 1. That's what the hope is. We will need some help in thinking through and making sure we're not making any mistakes on what we need to have in that contract. So hopefully in this next month or two, if a couple people would be willing just to sit down with me, bounce some ideas off of us, so we can talk through what is absolutely necessary to get that contract moving. And then if I could go to just discussion point, so Jay, the USDA meeting, Ken attended that. Thank you very much for doing that as well. We have finally a new staff assistant in our office. Her name is Jen Johnson. So if you hear from her, she's probably trying to make me more organized. She will be a taskmaster to me. So I'm actually glad to have that. She can help if there's some documents or something we need to put together. So please let me know if you need the resources of Jen. She attended the USDA meeting and she'll be providing some additional notes. USDA, my notes actually ended up on a sticky note. So I met with Holly Halligan and she told me we had previously had conversations with USDA. And at the time they felt comfortable that they're like, okay, if you phase it into $5 million projects, small projects along the way, we can get it done. And I just told her, I said, Holly, we don't have time for that anymore. How do we, how do we get there? And they still do have about $5 million, but that's for the entire state for local decisions. And then they have up to $17 million at the state level to loan out if necessary. Anything above that, they have to go to their national headquarters to get approval. Excuse me. So just kind of keep that in your mind. They do have a max term of 40 years, but both Ken and I went, no, don't do to 40 years.
Mill City did a 40-year loan on a 25-year sewer system, and we're replacing components before it was paid for. So, no.
No, we thought of you when that came up. So
And we actually said, like Mill City.
Yeah, once bitten, twice shy.
Right. And so they said that right now their loan terms are at 1.75%.
Mm-hmm.
They have some requirements of obviously a master plan feasibility. She felt comfortable that that would fall into what they already need. The environmental review would need to be done.
Yep.
We had EDUs at 2,500 roughly, 2,497. And when she was running those numbers, she was like, this is actually doable. She thinks that this was, I think she even admitted it when she first met me and talking through this project. She was like, well, good luck with that. And so everybody in the table kind of heard that and kind of internalized it for a while. But she's feeling much better. We're going to be in communication much more often. And hopefully I would think by roughly the July, August timeframe that we need to sit down with all of those different federal funding agencies and really start hashing through what the numbers look like so we can make some big decisions. So that is that time frame there. Ken, anything else I should add about that meeting?
No, it's just that she was amazed on how far this project has gotten and that it's very doable. Very doable.
Yeah, I was able to speak to Dolph Diamant, who is the federal, the FEMA regional director. And because it was a scheduled appointment, it took like 30 people to make this happen. It was quite intimidating. And they got a whole bunch of people on the call as well that were more our state people. And I spoke, he said, you know, why did you want to talk to me? I said, well, because I want to make sure that the people of Detroit are the people that are talking to you about Detroit, not people from other towns talking to you about Detroit. And so I talked about the water because obviously that's an enormous issue, but we are making progress on that. And I touched base on that. I said, but really what I want to talk to you about is this economic development, and that we can't grow and we can't repair and we can't rebuild if we don't have a sewer. And he was like, you know, really FEMA's can't really do that for you because of the Stafford Act and everything. And I'm in my head going, oh, I totally know that, but I know that you're federal and you're talking to people and you're going to get the right people to the table. And absolutely everyone was like, oh, we're all on this. Oh yeah. We've got your back and everything. And it was like the best, most stressful half hour I've had in a long time, because it really was, everyone was like, oh, we're all over this and we're going to make this happen. And I'm like, okay, but we need it in less than 4 years.
Show me.
Show me the money.
Yeah.
Show me the money.
And I said, if we have to, and I also testified to the state representatives, and I also testified to Senator Wyden, and I also testified to Kurt Schrader. I am communicating out there. I want you to know that. And that was really my point, is we will come to you asking for money, but if you could send it to us instead, we're going to gain like 2 years. If we don't have to come to you, or if you're just waiting for the ask, don't wait. Mail it to me. I'm waiting. And so that's really just my constant point. And they don't even want to look at me anymore because they know what I'm going to say. But the point is, since the fires, it has changed the focus and the adamancy of this event, that this has to happen. And people that were not on board before are on board now. People that were like, oh, I don't think I would hook up, now have no choice, kind of a thing, or they think it's a great idea. So the horrificness of the fires is actually going to be in some ways advantageous to the NSSA. It's just making that leap. But I think that both you, Ken, and you, Danielle, are making that happen. And I will continue to do whatever I can do, because I've got their phone numbers and their emails now, and they have mine, and I know who to talk to, as well as you do too. But different people all talking to different people makes wow, I talked to that gal. Oh, I talked to that lady. Oh, yeah. We need to find a solution.
It's a team. This is a big team. It's
Absolutely.
a team effort. And anybody can make contact. And it's just not just, it's everybody. It's a team deal. And it's pretty important.
I think, Shelley, your efforts on that, because I actually heard about it afterwards, so I knew that you made some headway.
Yeah.
They need to also hear it, not just from me, right? So I think you guys have all done an amazing job since the fire in hammering those details over and over and over again. And I, of course, wish we were further along. That's just kind of, but that's what it is. And I think there is an opportunity here that maybe didn't exist before we had to convince people that it was doable. Now it's not about, is it doable? Now it's, how can we get the money to you as a direct, as a Christmas tree bill, right? How do we do that? It's just a different conversation, which also means though that we are running around talking to everybody and anyone. And so today, speaking of anyone and everyone, and Janet, you had your hand up, and I'm sorry, was that intended?
Yes, it was. I was going to comment on what Shelley was saying. If you haven't had the opportunity to listen to the fire recovery hearing from Monday night, I believe, you really need to do that, because we have hit some home runs and rung some bells with that committee. They heard us. The Canyon hits home with a lot of people. I listened to Andrew Phelps. I listened to the gentleman from FEMA, Dolph, and several others talk about specifically not pushing anybody else out of the way. but the canyon and what it needs. So we're hitting some home runs. You guys are doing awesome. We can keep it up. But if you haven't listened to that, it's a really good part of that hearing. You need to and they're just discussing the fires.
Janet, if you would be so kind to send us a link to that so we don't have to search OLIS for it, that would be great.
You got it. I'll see if I can't put it right on here for us.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Yeah, I agree 100%. I had an opportunity also to speak this morning at the Oregon Association of Water Utilities. And our wonderful friends that I don't think he's here anymore, Keith, they had, this is their annual conference. This is the one that we have, I have presented at since 2018 on different topics. So last year is about how to make your project glamorous enough to be worthy of funding. And then this year we got to do an actual update on the North Santiam sewer project and all of the pieces that have happened specifically since the fire and what impacts that has had. I think the big takeaway that I pointed out is that everybody wants more information. They want deeper information and they need it now and they need it more often. And so that's, you know, we've got to figure out, and I put this upon all of us, we have to figure out a communication strategy to make sure that people are getting accurate, concise, actionable information, and they don't have to go all over the place to get it.
Right.
So anything that we can do, and I'm highly suggesting YouTube is super easy. It only takes me time to upload an hour and a half, but that's the only thing it really takes. It doesn't take much more than that. And I think it's a way that we can kind of start cataloging, and then all we have to do instead of housing it on our website for that background, all we have to do is send a link to it. And so it's not taking up room on our website as well. So that worked out well. If you do hear about the presentation, I talked about how a disaster is a lot like Gilligan's Island, right? You have all of these roles that people take. They all have different specialties and everybody's trying to survive together. And you do the very best you can, and sometimes it doesn't necessarily become fruitful. And so that was what the conversation. Which one of you is Gilligan? Nice.
I get the top bunk.
So I was hoping that I wasn't too far off on my age group to know. So I had to test my sister, and I'm like, did we see that? Okay, so
You seem a little young for that show. Are you sure?
I watched it in syndicate.
Okay, just had to ask.
That's timeless.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
So those are the two discussions I've had in this last week. I've also been having side conversations. Senator Merkley's staff has reached out. Senator Wyden's staff reached out. I will tell you, there is a lot more sensitivity about the 3-basin rule right now. And so I've been told, just lay low a little bit, right? Just don't keep saying that you're going to break the whole system. And I'm like, okay, fine. I just want to make sure it's clear. We are going to do whatever can be permitted under the rules. There's nothing else going to be happening. It's whatever the rules allow for us to do. But we are doing a dual master plan. And the reason we're doing a dual master plan, and this is for people that maybe don't know all of these details, is we need to know what the cost differential is for these communities to comply with the 3-basin rule, because it's going to be in the amounts of tens of millions of dollars different than, say, any other community that is not in this watershed. And so I think that is an extraordinarily important piece to actually get a number on, so we can use that as a leverage. But let's be clear, we're going to do whatever can be permitted, because we are trying to do what is environmentally sustainable. Our cities need this water to be clean too. And I think you guys have all committed to that. So that's what I will say about that. I just want to make sure that that was super clear, that we are going to do only what is permitted. There's no question elsewhere. It's about putting together a leverage point on the budgetary amount. So there you go.
Pressure's on Peter. Okay, opportunities for volunteers.
Shelley made a good comment at the town hall of what can volunteers do. And I think we actually have to have a conversation about what volunteers could do and how they can be helpful to us, whether it be helping to write grant applications, right? So if we had a small group that all they focused on was a grant specifically for the homeowners for their portion of it, that those are the types of things I think that we should really hone in on where we could really use their help.
Homeowners grant.
Anybody else have any other opinions on that?
That's one of those things, you know, volunteer requests. People will say, oh, I'm happy to volunteer, but then they don't. But if you specifically ask a person, would you write this grant? Or if when you get more specific to the person, it is amazing how many more people you'll get to say yes. One of the things that I could do, for instance, is put out there on social media. We are looking for volunteers who might be able to write grants, rather than saying, we're always welcoming volunteers. No, you have to get specific. So that is definitely one that there might be people, including our own John McCormick, who can volunteer to write grants. But that's the way that you do it, is you put it out there in social media with a specific ask.
That also encourages people to do a specific chore, and they don't think that they're on the hook for the long run.
Yeah.
That turns a lot of people off.
Yes, yes.
Hold it, that's been a long run.
You're only on first base, my friend. You got a long way to go.
Oh, man. Yeah,
Maybe we'll call it the 10-yard line.
or 10-year, yeah. Wow. And we got another 48 years or longer.
So what I hear is clear, concise, time constrained, and then utilize the fact that we have social media presence. Now, we said that we weren't doing a Facebook page at this point because it has to be monitored and all that stuff. I still feel that way, but I'm going to leave it. You guys, it's up to you guys. I think the way that we've been forwarding it through the communities is getting a little bit more traction.
So you think a Facebook page would be?
I think it's a bad idea.
Okay.
Right now.
Yeah, a concern I see with it is all of the outside folks that are going to want to get into it. We're going to have to verify who's on our community, so we don't end up with, pardon me, some jerk somewhere who just wants to cause ruckus and stir up problems. Yeah, Shelley, I know it never happens around here, but I think doing it through the community pages is much better too.
Okay. I'm finding that trusted community members are actually trusted for a reason.
Yeah, I will say that the only issue I have is when I post something to a group where there's another administrator. If it starts to get ugly, I can't take it down. I can't take the comments down. On the city of Detroit, I'm the administrator on the Facebook page. When it gets ugly, delete, 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 delete. It's like, this is not helpful. This is not useful. There's a snotty comment today about the card lock, but it was that I sent it to a group. And so the group administrator has not taken down or is going to leave it there, whatever. So that would be the only advantage to having our own Facebook site, is we are the administrator of the comments. But I think it's too soon. It would be very blank a lot of the time. There wouldn't be a lot to put on there yet. I think when there's something to really talk about, then we could bring it up at that point. But yeah.
Shelley,
I've had.
Oh, go ahead.
I've had a lot of luck talking to administrators, just sending them a note and saying, hey, you know what, this conversation's got out of hand. It either needs to be locked or taken down, or those people that are inappropriate. And it's been, since the fires, really kind of effective that people are paying more attention. So just heads up.
No, that's a good point, and I do that on occasion. This was, you know, it was really sour grapes is more than anything. But oh yeah, I'm quick to tell administrator, you might want to look at that. I'm an administrator, a community observer on Nextdoor, and there are days that I like that needs to be shut down. So anyway, I think the Facebook site, it's just too soon.
And I would really want to make sure that we're having debate in this meeting and not online. That's part of the reason why I'm not a big fan of it, but I do want to use it to share information. So of course you can obviously, oh, so John just posted something too, and I know Joel has something to say. It says there might be a legal problem if it's, yeah. So that's the thing. We don't want to pull a meeting and have an extended meeting by having comments outside of that meeting. And so just from a transparency perspective on how decisions are made, I'm always preferring to do it actually in a public meeting.
Yeah.
And Joel, you had something?
I was just gonna point out what John was writing there, that that we can limit comments and that we can't delete them once that they are made. But if we did have a page, like the Board of Accountancy has a Facebook page that they post to maybe like 3 times a year. But for the people that are following that page, for those important messages, they do get them. So, I mean, maybe we could make a page, and then if we don't use it, that's fine, but we have it that way. I don't know.
Just to clarify, on the City of Detroit Facebook page, the comments that I took down were when they were personally insulting each other.
I'm not a Facebooker, so I don't know all the rules, but can't you make a show only page, one that doesn't take comments?
Yeah.
John,
There's
John.
Right?
What'd you say, John?
Yeah, it was so unattractive. Yeah.
Okay, well, I do think this is a conversation we'll have to figure out, and I think a communication plan, and we've talked about this in the past, and making sure that we're following every opportunity to talk with people. I was just really excited to see that many people see the YouTube page in 2 days. I mean, 2 days, there was already over 70 views, Tim. So I know, just for the town hall meeting that we posted. So
wow. Are your eyes sore?
I didn't only look at it 3 times. I took mine off. I said, okay, I didn't do it 3 times.
Okay.
Next meeting.
Upcoming grant application deadlines.
Yes, I think hopefully by next meeting, I'll have some grant application deadlines, so just we can be aware. I also heard Energy Trust of Oregon meeting. I also heard a potential legislative update, and that we are going to talk about the staffing that we didn't talk about this time because I wasn't ready. And then I also put out there the goal that we want to meet in person starting hopefully in June. And I think that's what we talked about is June.
Yes.
So that's still the goal.
So you want to put down Energy Trust for next meeting topics, review board rules, get after Peter about the master plan. And we love them. Email accounts, that's old. And what else?
I have legislative update. I think that's just important for us to know where we are since we're in a legislative session.
Yeah.
Would you like me to read what I caught?
Yes, that would be great.
Grant application deadlines, Energy Trust of Oregon meeting, legislative updates, staffing. Danielle's going to be ready this time, I think she said. I've got those notes all included. No, I don't. Meeting in person starting in June. Review board rules and master plan, get after Peter to finish it.
And I would just say our goal is to start meeting hopefully in June.
Okay.
Some of the updated health information I'm hearing is that they'll have enough vaccinations starting May 1. So that is promising. But I obviously, I want to make sure that we're being mindful of whatever the state recommends as well.
Okay, is there anything else? Boy, we're right on time again.
You're good, dude.
Don't tell nobody.
So if we want to close the meeting or something, I wanted to kind of get some information from Mary Ann and see what she's got. Do we need to do anything else or can we close our meeting?
I had a question that I don't know if I was following, and it was on the population forecasting or the study that you were doing. And is the goal for that because you want it to be what's on the ground now instead of building for the future? Is it going to be a benefit for you to have the lower numbers that would be today than we anticipate would be a part of the system in the future?
So I'm going to answer it in two different ways. So hang
Okay.
tight. It's beneficial to have accurate numbers that are based on current reality, not previous. And these become projections. So PSU, the Portland State University, does projections up to 50 years or 30, maybe 35 years. And they do population projections from where you are at a stagnant point. So they typically use the census. But because the census was online during the time of the fires, in communities that didn't have internet service, we're making the assumptions that they're not going to get the numbers right.
And so have we seen those numbers from the census?
Only the population has come out. The other census numbers will not come out for a while.
So what were those census numbers that they came
The
up
state
with?
still only has it. They have not. I say it's gone to PSU for evaluation. They'll then forward it to the cities and states. I don't believe income for Gates was off the last time. Idana was off significantly last time. I think the last time they had like $56,000 for a median household income. When Council of Governments went and actually did an income survey, they found it was like 29. So it was like way off. And so the statistical analysis just doesn't work very well when you have a very small population.
Thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate all that you're doing. Thank you for persevering through all of this.
Yeah, and are you, so Ken was saying that you are working with Gates, is that what I'm hearing?
I am. The county's hired me in a community services liaison position as city management help for the city of Gates. So
great.
We're working.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I know they need the help, so thank you so much for doing that. They've been working crazy trying to make everything work. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I'll try to help.
I already have one. Can I throw one back at you?
Sure.
Those income studies and population figures, they're going to affect also the revenues, like the state shared revenues.
Yes,
so what's the timeline for that when we're thinking about budget forecasting and things? When your study may be done, when those numbers may come out?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to close this? Do you want to close the NSA meeting?
Yeah, let's
no,
close.
Well, I'm listening to this. This is good.
Okay.
Well, I know
we
it's
can
not on
officially
it's not on
close
the
the
agenda.
meeting and then continue.
Yes.
Thank you.
So who's got the motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I second it.
Well, wait, I'm confused too. I'm sorry. So is this not something that we should be discussing in public session? Is that why people want to adjourn?
No, it's not on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda, but also it's dealing with city business versus this. And so that's the only thing.
Well, I just wanted to ask Mary Ann's last name.
Hills. Hi, I worked with you in Detroit. I'm one of your wildfire victims.
So are you related to Kevin Hills?
Yes, I'm his sister-in-law.
Okay, and you worked on the Santiam School District bond out of Mill City.
I did.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
A
so-
quick
Motion-
reminder, though, once we adjourn out of the sewer authority meeting, we can't discuss sewer authority stuff. We'd have to stay on city
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, so Tim made the motion to adjourn. Who's second?
Aye.
Who's
Tim's
aye?
aye.
Jeff Smith.
Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith made the second. All in favor, just say aye.
All right.
Right?
Goodbye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
And-
Thank you.
And